Hello and welcome to SEDA College Online. It's great that you're here today. I'm so happy that you've tuned in. Thanks very much for being here. So today we're going to talk about phrasal verbs with up. We've been looking at English and the difficulty of pronunciation. We've been looking at the English and the difficulty of vocabulary in English, talking about how we not only have vocabulary that comes from the Latin and the Greek, as well as the German and the French, but we also have these Germanic phrasal verbs, which are a real challenge to people. So they're kind of generally lower status, these old phrasal verbs, and they're used more in spoken language rather than formal written language, but they're very much an everyday part of our lives, and it's essential that you understand phrasal verbs, and it would be good if you use them as well. Like, they are important. Phrasal verbs are important. So today we're going to look at some phrasal verbs with up. And then we're going to look at a newspaper article, an interview with a Brazilian artist who is talking about some of her own personal life lessons, talking about her life. And we're going to use these then as a model to reflect on the life lessons that she's talking about, and then to turn them into some practice on using phrasal verbs with up. So please bear with me. I hope that you join along today, and please write some comments in the comment box so that I can see what you're talking about, and maybe I can answer some questions for you. That would be great. Thanks. Okay, are you ready? So here's our 10 phrasal verbs with up: to take up, to give up, to make up, to look up, to show up, to set up, to keep up, to blow up, to get up, and to end up. So can you do all of those? One of them means to get out of bed, one of them means to arrive, one means to continue at the same rate, one means something that you eventually do or you decide to do, something that you find or you search for. One is to start, another is to pretend or imagine, another one is to explode, to organize, and then to quit. So can you work them out? Take up, what does take up mean? Give up, what does that mean? Make up, what does that mean? Look up, show up, set up, keep up, blow up, get up, end up. The point is that these phrasal verbs have lots of different meanings depending on their context. So I do realize that this is pretty difficult for you out of context. And that's why I'm building these phrasal verbs into a context so that you can see how they might work, and we can practice that together. So to take up means to start, as in I take up football, I take up swimming, my son has taken up judo. It means that you've started to do something. To give up means to quit. So say you were doing something and you didn't want to do it anymore, then you say, I give up. This is too difficult. This is not worth it. This is too much effort. I'm not going to do it anymore. Make up is when it means really imagine. So sometimes it's not really a lie, it's just something that you imagine and then you make it up. So you invent it. So you make up a story about your friend and who they went out with and what they did. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a lie. You just made it up. You just imagined it and you pretended that it was true. Look up is when you search for something. So on the internet, on your phone, you look stuff up. You look up phone numbers. You can look up your old friends and see what they're doing. You can look up information. We look up stuff all the time on the internet now. You don't really need to know facts because you can just look them up. Show up means arrive. So that's kind of like if you imagine the theatre, the show has started and then, da-da-da, look who's on the stage. Oh, they've shown up. So they've arrived and they've made an entrance. So I guess maybe that's where our show up comes from. Set up means to arrange. So you set up a meeting, you set up a date, you set up an appointment. So that means that you plan something and you organize what you have to do. You can also set up house, which means that you do everything you can to organize and set up your home. You can set up your job. You can set anything that you do work around it, or in anticipation of it. That's setting it up. Keep up means to continue at the same rate. So you like, hurry up, come on, keep up, walk as fast as me. Or if you're studying a language, keep up. That means like study and keep the same pace as me in your learning. Or like I quit. I don't like running with other people because I can't keep up. They always run faster than me. Blow up is like when a bomb explodes. You can blow up it with anger as well, and so it doesn't have to be just a physical explosion. Get up is when you get out of bed. It just means raise yourself as well. Like I get up and get on with your day. So hurry up and get up and get out. So yeah, it means rise. And end up is what you do in the end. So you think about doing something, and then what happens in the end is what you end up doing. So maybe I'll do this, maybe do that. Oh, what did you end up doing? So it's like, what was your final solution? What happened at the end? So it doesn't have to be the end of your life, but it's the end of any kind of process is what you end up doing. So now we've got an exercise here, phrasal verbs with up. You've got those 10 phrasal verbs. Take up means to start, give up means to quit, make up to invent or to lie about something, look up to find or to search for, show up to arrive, set up to arrange, keep up to continue doing the same thing at the same rate, blow up or explode, get up as in get out of bed, and end up, eventually do something or decide to do something. So smoking, you stop smoking obviously, so what do? You give it up. Giving up smoking isn't easy. Slow down, I can't. When you want to go at the same speed, I can't catch up, I can't keep up. You can rely on Jim to turn up on time, so you can rely on him to arrive on time. Like you're waiting for him, and then you know that he will turn up, and he'll turn up at the right time. He will come. Have you started any new hobbies? Taken up any new hobbies? Don't believe everything she tells you. She likes to imagine stories, is make up. She likes making up stories. I'll help you prepare, set up for the party as soon as I get home. Get yourself organised. That would mean put everything in the right place, get out the glasses, get out the cups, move the furniture around. Did you look up the telephone number of the restaurant? The car, after it crashed into the wall, so it blew up. We up going to the theatre instead of the gallery. Ended up. So we thought, will we do this or will we do that? And in the end, we ended up going to the theatre instead of the gallery. And I up this morning and went for a walk. I woke up. Yeah, so those are the phrasal verbs there. I hope those are okay. It's just context. That's how you know. It's context. You just have to learn them, I'm afraid. For us, they're absolutely normal and easy to understand. But when you're trying to explain the logic, it's not so easy. So, phrasal verbs with up, life lessons. So this is an article from the Irish Times, dated Monday the 30th of March. And the title is Learning Languages Makes My Brain Work in a Different Way. So I'm pretty sure that you guys have that feeling as well. It's that when you learn languages, that gives you, forces your brain to create ideas in a different way. And that is, it's good for your personal and professional development. Your personal development in terms of learning new things and making your brain work a different way. So this person Mariana is Brazilian and she's an artist, and she's doing some work in Dublin here, like the date was the 30th of March, and her exhibition runs from the 30th of March till the 12th of April in Dublin. So before we look at the article and see what she says about these things, I'd just like to ask you to reflect a little bit on your own life and what answers you would have to these questions. Is there a moment that changed your life? So, like, what happened in your life that changed it? What moments do you have in your life that changed them? That's interesting, isn't it? And who or what has been the biggest influence on your career? And that's another interesting question. The single biggest influence on where you are today. I wonder who that is. Who do you most admire? That's a good question. What is the biggest challenge you've faced in your life? What's the best advice you've ever received? What practical thing do you do to help your personal development? Now that's an interesting question, isn't it? What do you do to develop your own your own personality, your own being, your own future development? And what's your biggest flaw? And what's your life motto? So maybe you can pause this and maybe just write a few notes to yourself about what you consider your life lessons to be. Like, what did you learn? What's, take a moment to reflect on your own life here. So this is the article from the Irish Times in its entirety, and you might like to have a read of it. It's not so easy for us to do that together. So I'm just going to leave it for you there, and you can pause this video and watch it when you're ready. And we're going to talk about phrasal verbs with up. We're going to talk about, I've selected little bits of it. So this is the whole article, and these are just little sections. So we're going to look at her answers, Mariana's answers to the questions that were posed to her during the interview. Is there a moment that changed your life? Who or what has been the biggest influence on your career? Who do you most admire? And what's the biggest challenge you've faced in your life? So those are the responses, but they're obviously in the wrong order. And so the challenge is to just take a little read of them and to work out which goes where. So becoming aware of years of self-sabotaging processes, which in turn led me to realize I needed psychotherapy. So self-sabotaging processes, they mean that that she feels, like by her language, that she was putting herself down. For years and years, she was doubting herself, and she was making things not work for herself. And then she realized that she had to go to psychotherapy. So was that a moment of change, an influence, a person they admire, or a big challenge? Then who or what? Oh, the second one, my family, my parents, my siblings, my husband and his family. I'm lucky to be surrounded by strong, intelligent, hardworking, kind and generous people. Which question does that answer? Is there a moment of that changed your life? Who or what has been the biggest influence on your career? Who do you most admire? And what's the biggest challenge you've faced in your life? I think all those words are okay for you, are they? And then the third one, the moment I realized I wanted to stay in Barcelona, where I've been living for the past 9 years. I initially came here for a year of studies. It was terrifying because I had no onward visa, no money, no support network, just a burning desire and my gut screaming that it was the right thing to do. So is that a moment that changed her life, a person of influence, someone they admire, or the biggest challenge? What do you think? And then, even though they didn't understand the world of art and design, my parents were always very sensitive and supportive of my career ambitions, creative ambitions. Their belief in me has enabled me to reach what I truly aspire to. So let's show you now. A moment that changed your life, the moment I realised I wanted to stay in Barcelona, where I've been living for the past 9 years. I initially came for a year of studies. It was terrifying because I had no onward visa, no money, no support network, just a burning desire and my gut screaming that it was the right thing to do. Who or what has been the biggest influence on your career? Even though they didn't understand the world of art and design, my parents were always very sensitive and supportive of my creative ambitions. Their belief in me has enabled me to reach for what I truly aspire to. So her parents are her biggest influence on her career. Moving to Barcelona was the moment that changed her life. Who does she most admire? Her family. My family. My parents, my siblings, my husband and his family. I'm lucky to be surrounded by strong, intelligent, hardworking, kind and generous people. So she's pretty happy in her family group. And what's the biggest challenge you faced in your life? Becoming aware of the years of self-sabotaging processes, which in turn led me to realise that I needed psychotherapy. So when she realised that she was, that she had problems and that she wasn't actually achieving her best because she didn't have the self-confidence to do that, is the biggest challenge of her life. And if she's now a successful artist, I guess she must have lived up to those challenges and done well. So what's the best advice you've ever received? What practical things do you do to help your personal development? What's your biggest flaw and what's your life motto? I think these questions are very interesting questions. Like, what practical thing do you do to help your personal development? That's a good question. And what's your life motto? So what's the best advice you've ever received? Don't judge. Everyone is mostly just trying their best. What practical thing do you do to help your personal development? Meditation, exercise, good sleep and psychotherapy. That's interesting. What's your biggest flaw? My short temper. And what's your life motto? As my father likes to say, there's no free lunch. That's a pretty good motto, huh? So, phrasal verbs with up. Now, this is the challenge, okay? So I've just got 8. Before I had 10, now there's just 8 here. To take up means to start. To give up means to quit. To show up means to arrive. To set up means to arrange. To keep up means to continue doing something. To blow up is to explode. To get up means to rise out of your bed. You can get up out of a chair as well, of course. Or you can get up off the floor. And end up is what you do in the end. So what my challenge here is, we're going to look again at her answers. And you might notice that all her answers are non-phrasal. She's using Latin verbs all the way through the interview. And I guess coming from Portuguese background, coming from Brazil, she's more comfortable using these kind of verbs rather than phrasal verbs. And so we're just looking at how could we put some phrasal verbs into her responses. So this is the challenge here. Is there a moment that changed your life? And she says, the moment I realized I wanted to stay in Barcelona, where I've been living for the past 9 years. I initially came for a year of studies. I was terrified because I had no onward visa, no money, no support network, just a burning desire and my gut screaming that it was the right thing to do. So the challenge is for you to say something in the context of this response, using the verb to set up. So really to re-say part of what she says, but to use a phrasal verb, set up. Can you do that? Okay, I'm going to show you how to do it. It was when I decided to set up home in Barcelona, where I'd been living for the last 9 years, where I have been living for the last 9 years, and there you go. Because set up home means like stay in Barcelona as her home, you know. So if you want to stay in Barcelona, you want to set up home in Barcelona. Who or what has been the biggest influence on your career? So give up. So we've got quit. And how could you fit that into, to have the same answer, just to say the same kind of thing in a different way? Can you use that phrasal verb? Maybe you could write it into the comments and we can see what you can do. That'll be good. Okay, I'm going to show you what I have. Have you finished? Anybody writing in the comments? I'll just give you a minute. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I have. I know my parents will never give up on me, which gives me confidence to keep reaching for my dreams. So that's the same idea, is that her parents were sensitive and supportive. So they never said, oh, we give up, we just don't know what you're doing, we don't believe in you anymore. No, they never did that. They were always sensitive, they were always supportive, they never gave up on her. And because they were so supportive and sensitive and they didn't give up on her, she took the confidence from that in order to do what she really wanted to do. So if she hadn't had that support from them, she wouldn't have been able to develop her career in the same way. So your parents, her parents don't give up on her. Like, you should try not to give up on your friends and your family. Obviously, mostly we don't, do we? So who do you admire? My family, my parents, my siblings, my husband and his family. I'm lucky to be surrounded by strong, intelligent, hardworking, kind and generous people. So end up is the one that I'm looking for. Can you write a phrasal verb with end up that uses, that talks like, gives this answer? Can you write it in the comments box? Would be great, please. Thank you. I'll be waiting to see it. I'll give you a minute or so. So the challenge is to use end up in the context of her answer to who do you most admire. And this is my answer. My family, my parents, my siblings, my husband and his family are people that she most admires. I'm lucky to have ended up surrounded by strong, intelligent, hardworking, kind and generous people. So, she's a young woman still, but she's chosen her husband and she's chosen her home. And so, she's done a lot of thinking, and in the end, this is what she's doing. She's got her husband, she's got her family, got her parents, and got her sister, and now this is where she is now. So it's not the end of her life, but it's just the end of her. It's where her plans have taken her. It's what she eventually decided to do. It's the end of a process. She's ended up living in, up till now, she's ended up living in Barcelona surrounded by her family, her parents, her brothers and sisters, her husband and his family. And she's lucky and she's happy that she's ended up sharing her lives with all these fantastic people. So what's the biggest challenge that you've faced in your life? And she says, becoming aware of the years of self-sabotaging processes, which in turn led me to realize I needed psychotherapy. So the challenge for you now is to write a sentence here that reflects her responses and uses the phrasal verb take up, which means to start. Can you do that? Can you maybe write in the comments any suggestions that you have with the verb take up that could have a meaning, something similar to what she says about becoming aware of years of self-sabotaging processes, years of being her own worst enemy, which then led her to realize that she needed psychotherapy. I give you my answer. Becoming aware of years of self-sabotaging processes, this realization led me to taking up psychotherapy. So she took up psychotherapy, and like this is something that goes on and on and on. So it led me to doing something, led me to taking up psychotherapy, because she's still doing psychotherapy. So this is like ongoing, this take up. What's the best advice you've ever received? And the phrasal verb is get up. So how could you use get up in this context? Can you maybe write it in the comments box? Have you got any ideas? What's the best advice you've ever received? Don't judge. Everyone is mostly just trying their best. That's pretty good advice, isn't it? How could you sort of rewrite that to use the phrasal verb get up? Don't see my answer? Don't judge. Everyone is mostly just trying their best. Just get up and do your own thing. So that's the point, is that you don't know what the real motivations are from other people. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing. You don't know their background. So just live your own life and just don't judge other people. Just do your own thing. Just get up and do your own thing. So that's the phrasal verb get up. And then keep up is the next one, is the phrasal verb with up. What practical things do you do to help your personal development? So we want you to use the phrasal verb keep up, which means that you continue to do something. And her answer is meditation, exercise, good sleep, and psychotherapy. Have you got any ideas of how you could use keep up in that context? I try to keep up with meditation, exercise, good sleep, and going to psychotherapy. So like when you use the verb keep up there, what you're trying to say is, yeah, like we all have done a little bit of meditation, like one day or two. We all have done a little bit of exercise, like every now and again. Sometimes we all go to bed early, and sometimes, you know, we all, I don't know if we all go to a psychotherapist, but, you know, talk about mental health. But if you keep it up, then that means that you have a regular rhythm of doing something, and you can't, you know, you do it again and again. And so she wants to maintain, in order to help her personal development, she does these things consistently. So I keep up, or I try to keep up, with meditation, exercise, good sleep, and going to psychotherapy. So regularly doing all those things, keeping up with them. And what's your biggest flaw? My short temper. Any ideas how you could use, blow up in this context? Blow up. I tend to blow up when I get angry. So a bomb blows up, but a person, when they're furious, they blow up as well. So they just explode with anger, is blow up. So that's her biggest flaw, is that when she gets angry, she just blows up. And what's your life motto? As my father says, there's no free lunch. And as my father likes to say, there's no such thing as a free lunch. You can't just show up and hope to get something for nothing. So you know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. That means if somebody gives you something, they want something back. And you can't take from other people and think that there's going to be nothing in return. You always have to give. You can't just take. So you can't just arrive like you would maybe in your parents' house, say, ta-da, I'm here, I want my dinner. Because in the real world, that doesn't happen. You have to actually make an effort. You have to do the work. You have to give back. So there's no such thing as a free lunch. You can't just show up and hope to get something for nothing. So I hope that you that this little presentation helped you with phrasal verbs with up. I hope you have a better understanding of how you use take up, give up, make up, look up, show up, set up, keep up, blow up, get up, end up, in the context that we've been talking about. Thank you very much for listening. Please put your comments in the comments box. I really appreciate you being here with me. Thanks. Bye.